When you think of premium laptops, notebooks, or ultrabooks, what comes to mind? The Dell XPS, the HP Spectra X360, or even the MacBook. Regardless of what you think of, there are several premium laptops out there that do, well, just about everything you'd need. How well do they do it? Well, that is the million-dollar question, and maybe someday we'll review them all. However, new to the arena is the Razer Book 13. I know you're thinking to yourself, Razer? They make gaming laptops, right? And you would be correct. And their gaming laptops are top notch. But what about their premium line of productivity-focused laptops? Well, let's take a look, shall we? Lexar has been around the storage game for 25 years now when it comes to things like memory cards, readers, and solid-state drives. But now, Lexar is getting into RAM with their first lineup called Hades. Their 32GB kit comes with two 16GB DIMMs running at 3600 MHz, which is a pretty competitive space in the DDR4 market. So if you're looking for a solid set of RAM for your next build, go ahead and check out the new Lexar Hades RGB RAM, link in the description below. Razer has always been known to make premium products at a premium cost, and the Razer Book 13 is no exception. The question so many people ask when purchasing a Razer product is it worth the price? Well, hopefully, by the end of our review of the Razer Book 13, which happens to be the video you're watching right now, you will know the features of the Razer Book 13 and the configurations it comes in, see performance and very limited gaming benchmarks to see if performance meets what your expectation and productivity needs are, and of course be able to make an informed decision on if this laptop is right for you. Now, before we begin, let me just say that the model we are reviewing with is the Razer Book 13 that comes with a 4-core, 8-thread Intel i7 1165G7 that is Intel Evo platform certified. It has Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics, a 512GB NVMe SSD, 16GB of fixed LPDDR4X dual-channel RAM clocked at 4267 MHz, a 13.4 UHD 4K touch display, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.1, and finally Windows 10 20H2. So because of that, we had to do quite a bit of updates to Windows just to get the Razer Book 13 to a usable state. Now, more on our testing in a few. Now, the Razer Book 13 comes in 7 different variants, ranging all the way from $999.99 to $1999.99 for the MSRP, all according to Razer's website. Other retailers such as Amazon, Newegg, etc. tend to have them on sale from time to time, as does Razer's as well. Now, the device itself weighs around 3 pounds total and has the look and feel of a premium laptop with sharp, square-off edges resembling Microsoft's Surface Book. Personally, I love how this laptop looks, and there's something about the material that makes it feel so cool to the touch and always so bougie to open. The color options you have for the Razer Book 13 are a single color only. Wait, this just in. Oh, actually, it comes in quartz now. Now, you have the option of choosing either Intel's 4-core, 8-thread 11th Gen i5 1135G7 with a base clock of 2.4 GHz and a boost clock of 3.8 GHz, or Intel's 4-core, 8-thread 11th Gen Intel i7 11765G7 with a base clock of 2.8 and a boost clock of 4.7. Both are based off of Intel's Tiger Lake design, and they are Intel's Evo platform certified. Now, you might be asking yourself, Robey, you're throwing that around. What the heck is Intel Evo Platinum certification, you might ask? Intel's Evo brings quick charging, better battery life, up to 3 times faster internet, results obviously may depend on your internet speed, up to 3 times faster photo and video editing, and the biggest feature, and my favorite feature of the Intel Evo platform, brings its instant wake. Now, this is awesome, and it is crazy how much faster it is until you've actually tried it. You've seen me use the Razer Book on various streams, and when I open it, it just wakes instantly. Now, we told you about the CPUs you can choose from. For RAM, you actually have 2 choices as well. You can get 8 gigs or 16 gigs of their LPDDR4X clocked up to 4267 MHz, and both options are fixed. So there is no room for upgrading here, which is usually the case for non-gaming laptops. It's kind of disappointed when you're looking to classify your laptop as a productivity laptop and you don't have a 32 gig option to choose from like the Dell XPS models. With so many programs and tasks today, 32 gigs is becoming a must for productivity, especially for Chrome. No! No Chrome, don't eat my RAM. Now the Razer Book 13 comes in 3 different screen types as well. You can choose from an FHD non-touch 1920 by 1200, an FHD Plus Touch with 1920 by 1200, or a UHD Plus Touch 3840 by 1200 display. Each display option is 100% sRGB that is individually factory calibrated according to Razer. The FHD Plus non-touch has a matte finish. The FHD Plus Touch and the UHD Plus Touch models both use Gorilla Glass 6 with an anti-glare reflective coating. While we are reviewing the UHD Plus Touch display, when looking at the other models, the screens look impressive from pictures and videos we have seen. So what about storage, Robey? What can I choose from? What is nice about the Razer is that it gives you 3 options to choose from. You can choose 256 gigs, 512, or 1 terabyte, all in NVMe SSD configurations. Given how thin the Razer Book 13 is, a normal internal SSD would be tough to fit. So it's a great choice going with NVMe SSDs to keep it portable and to keep it thin. Now each Razer Book comes with 2 speakers on each side of the keyboard plus THX spatial audio, plus Smart Amp. Wireless AX or Wi-Fi 6 is built into all the Razer Book models along with Bluetooth 5.1, and all of them are eligible to upgrade to Windows 11 as they are embedded with the Intel Platform Trust Technology TPM 2.0. Yay, security. And finally, graphics. Now all of the Razer Book 13 options come with Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. So while you're not going to be able to play AAA titles on this, you may be able to run a few less graphic intensive games, but not many. Alright, we've covered the different variations that Razer has to offer. Now let's look outside of the Razer Book 13. After taking the Razer Book 13 out of the box, you can tell a lot of work went into the CNC aluminum anodized mercury with a tone-on-tone Razer logo on the back of the lid. Underneath, the perforated fan grates that look and feel like carbon fiber mesh, and they add a superb look to the overall design. It also has 2 rubber feet that extend the length of the bottom to keep it from slipping while sitting on surfaces like a countertop or a desk. When we go around to the sides of the Razer Book, we have the 1x USB 3.1 Gen 1 USB-A port on the left, along with a Thunderbolt 4 USB-C port next to it and a 3.5mm combo jack. On the right side of the keyboard, we have another Thunderbolt 4 USB-C port with an HDMI 2.0 port and a micro SD card slot. The Razer Book is USB-C charged, so it's nice that you can use either port to utilize for the charger. I found this handy, as I used it multiple places and sometimes the outlet when I needed to plug it in was on one side or the other. I wish all notebooks actually kind of did this. The setup is the same, by the way, across all 7 variants of the Razer Book 13. Now when opening the Razer Book 13, you'll see and feel something that, if you're a laptop user, that you'll almost definitely fall in love with. On most laptops or notebooks, you need 2 hands to open it, using one hand to hold the bottom and one hand to open the lid. On the Razer Book 13, you only need to use one hand to do all of this while sitting on your desk. One reason I can guess is that the lid is not so heavy and the hinge on the Razer Book 13 is absolutely top notch. Also, the rubber feet on the bottom almost grip it to the surface like Spider-Man climbing up buildings, providing the bottom of the Razer Book the ability to stay still while the lid and hinge do all of the work. On the bottom of the lid, there are 2 small rubber feet on it. Now what these are for is when you open the Razer Book 13 all the way, it lifts the keyboard and the bottom of the laptop off the surface to provide a couple of things. 1, a more comfortable place to type, so that way it's opposed to like a flat bottom, which is more ergonomic. The second is that it lifts the bottom of the surface to help the Razer 13 breathe, as that's where all the fans are located. You don't usually have this feature in too many laptop/notebook offerings, and it's nice to see Razer doing so. Now also upon opening the Razer Book 13, you are greeted with a keyboard draped in white keycaps that are raised and have a premium feel to them. And with Razer's per key RGB powered by Chroma with anti-ghosting, it makes for a premium feel to keyboards with a roomy and responsive trackpad that stretches the length of the spacebar and right alt keys combined. It seems to be the perfect size for a 13.4-inch laptop. We found another great function here, and that's just the FN key. When pressing the FN key, whether you have the backlit keyboard on or Razer Chroma with RGB lighting up your keyboard, all the LEDs stop and only the function keys are illuminated at this point. Now this is a really nice feature we are starting to see more and more in the laptop space. Whoa, Robey. Back up a second. I know Halloween just ended and all, but what the heck is anti-ghosting on a keyboard? Well, the trick to anti-ghosting technology is that it allows for up to 6 simultaneous key presses, so you'll never miss a keystroke. This is something that is common with gaming keyboards due to multiple keys being pressed at once. So it's definitely a treat to have this keyboard. See what I did there? Trick, treat, Halloween, trick or treat. Dad joke? Anyone? Now the screen on the model we tested was the 4K UHD touch display. From the moment you turn the PC on, you are greeted with the absolutely gorgeous display that Razer has provided with the Razer Book 13. With thin bezels on all sides, Razer has made the most out of the 13.4-inch display to make sure you can see everything with that 16:10 aspect ratio and up to 178-degree viewing angle. The screen is truly a sight to behold with its vibrant colors and clear and crisp resolution. The only thing that's holding this monitor back is the fact that it's only 60 Hz. During our UFO testing, we could not get the vertical markers on the UFOs to align properly like we have in so many of our external monitors we've reviewed. So subjectively, you will experience blurring during high-speed motion on this display. And given that a lot of phones now are shipping with 120 Hz, I don't know. Even for productivity, the actual screen speed does feel nice at 120 Hz. Now, when we tested the speakers, they aren't the greatest coming from a laptop. They will do, but the whole THX thing, I don't know. The bass and the lows sounded poor and had some minor crackling, and the higher the sound went, the more tinnier it sounded, even with or without spatial audio on. Now, it does have Smart Amp in it, whatever that is. Razer doesn't have any documentation on their site, nor in the manual for the device, so hey, use it. Now, before we get into thermals and benchmarks of the device, what would a Razer Book 13 review be without mentioning Razer Synapse and Chroma? Yes, we know not everyone is a fan of Razer Synapse or Chroma, but there are some really great features presented to you in Synapse to utilize the Razer Book 13. After opening Synapse, you have the typical main page with your devices listed, and the Razer Book 13 in Synapse is no different. After we select the Razer Book 13 in Synapse, we have 3 tabs and options. We have Customize, Lighting, and Performance. On the Customization tab, there are some pretty cool options listed, such as Gaming Mode, which this isn't a gaming laptop, but sure, if you want to disable the Windows key, disable Alt-Tab function, all that sort of stuff, all of those options are there. The next thing we see in the option is Function Key Primary Settings. You can either set them as function keys, or you have the option of setting them as multimedia keys. Totally up to you. Your lighting tab is similar to the lighting tab on all Chroma devices. You have system lighting options and lighting effects such as controlling the RGB on your keyboard. Finally, you have the Performance tab. And the Performance tab actually has some pretty cool options. You have options to change your battery. You have options to change your fan curve. You actually even have the option of changing your refresh rate from 48 Hz to 60 Hz. I don't know why you would switch to 48, but if you wanted to, there's an option there. And then finally, you can change your color profile if you want to, but we're pretty sure you're gonna be happy with what you get anyway. All right, enough about all of this. Let's test the internals of the Razer Book 13. But first, let's just remind you real quick. Again, we're using an i7 1165G7. We're using integrated Iris Xe graphics. We've got a 512 NVMe drive, 16 gigs of RAM, 13.4-inch 4K display, and Windows 10 20H2. For CPU thermals, we ran a few different benchmarks here from Unigen: Heaven, Superposition, and Valley. At idle, we found the 11th gen i7 1165G7 in the Razer Book 13 had an average of 39 degrees with a minimum of 37 degrees and a spike to 65 degrees as background processes happen. Really good compared to the Razer Blade 14 reviewed with the AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX, which idled at around 53 degrees. 39 degrees is a temp we'd expect from a premium laptop and, well, any decent laptop on the market. Now, during these tests, the average loudness measured in decibels at idle was 41.7, and under load it was about 46 decibels. This was a quiet machine, even under load, so you shouldn't have too many worries during multitasking for noise, or so we thought. More to come on this a little bit later, but it's not good. Now, for benchmarks on the CPU, we ran a few different ones. Let's start with 3D Mark. This test introduced a new approach to CPU benchmarking. Unlike some benchmarks producing a single number, CPU profile shows how CPU performance scales and change with the numbers of cores and threads used. During our tests on 3D Mark CPU Profile 1, we ran 3 runs at max threads, which actually averaged out to be 2922, which was above average score on 3D Mark's website for this CPU, which was 2816, which is no world record, but it's still above average score for the CPU. For our 8-threaded test, in which the CPU only has 8 threads, we ran the same 3 runs, averaging out at 2600 even. Now that's below average of 2615, but nothing noticeable. When you compare this CPU to the AMD Ryzen 9 5900H that is in our Razer Blade 14 review, it falls well below that CPU. In fact, it's only the 25th ranked mobile CPU on the site. Yes, We know that one is a Ryzen 9 and this one is an i7. And when the Ryzen 9 comes in 4,000 points higher than the Intel i7, we question, why is this the max CPU Razer put in the laptop? It's definitely not to keep the cost down, as you saw a little earlier with the price points. To compare Intel to Intels, in the 11th gen space, there are 9th gen i5s that are ranked higher, along with 10th gen i5s and i7s, so we're scratching our head on this as much as you are. Okay, let's talk about Cinebench. For this test, we used Cinebench R23, the latest version, to run 3 different runs, averaging out to a score of 1,506. Now this is where Intel does shine over AMD. Single core performance on the AMD Ryzen 9 5900HX came to an average of 1461. Intel has definitely mastered the single core performance of both their desktop and mobile CPUs. But the real kicker is next, multi-core performance. On the 3 runs, we averaged 4576 for the Intel i7. So the difference here between the single core average of 1506 and multi-core average of 4576 is around 3100 points. For the AMD Ryzen, the multi-core average was an astounding 11,886, giving the CPU an over 10,000 point increase. Yes, it is more cores and threads, but a 10,000 point increase is insane. Now, if you want to compare this CPU to a desktop CPU for multi-core, you can put it along the lines of, like, say, a Ryzen 5 1600. Yes, I said a 1600, as in a first-gen Ryzen, which was released in April of 2017. I'm still shaking my head at this as well. All right, performance-wise, we kind of get where this thing stands with our i7 and our Iris Xe integrated graphics. But you might be asking, Robey, how does the graphics portion of the CPU hold up? Well, let me preface this by saying this is not, I repeat, this is not a gaming laptop, and should not be purchased with the intent to game on it. But for the sake of our audience, you guys, and for sheer curiosity, we ran, or tried to run, the normal game gauntlet we run through for all of these reviews. Now, we set all of the games at the highest preset at 1920 by 1200. Kicking it off with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we averaged a whopping 19 frames per second. Borderlands 3, an astounding 11.07 frames per second. Metro Exodus, Dirt 5, wouldn't even run. Same goes for Apex Legends and Call of Duty. They also would not run. But for you Fortnite fanatics, we were able to not only get it to run, but it averaged 64.9 frames per second on it. 60 FPS Fortnite, yes! But to be clear, Fortnite also runs on potatoes, so there's not really a surprise there. Now, the biggest surprise here is that it's no surprise that more than half of the games wouldn't run on this laptop, as that's not what it's designed for. If you're looking to get into a gaming laptop, check out our review of the Razer Blade 14 right here. All right, I said we'd get back to the decibels of the fans, and here's what I meant. During our testing and review writing, we encountered the dreaded BSOD multiple times. For those of you who don't know what BSOD, here's a demonstration. Now you are very well aware what we're talking about. That's right, the blue screen of death. And the explanation is quite simple. These tests are designed to max out all cores and threads in the CPU. With the CPU only having 4 cores and 8 threads, running these tests will for sure lock the CPU and force a restart. During the review writing, it's the same thing. Having Chrome tabs open along with Microsoft Word and Excel and Discord, this eats up cores and resources. So with the CPU only having 4 cores and 8 threads, let's say for instance you open Chrome, that takes 1 core, and then all of a sudden you open up Excel, that's taking another core, and then Word, and then you're switching back and forth, and bam, resources get eaten up quickly, blue screen of death. Just in the time it took for us to write this review, we saw blue screen of death 5 times, and each time the fans cranked up like a jet engine, and then the blue screen of death happened right after that. So what does this all mean, Robey? Should I buy this laptop? Am I gonna encounter the blue screen of death each time I go to use this? The answer is, depends on what you're gonna use it for. Do you wanna have a machine you can use for your business where you're doing heavy multitasking and having multiple programs and apps open at the same time? Then the answer is probably not. And I would more than likely stay away from this laptop. This laptop is for your undergrad, college student, high school student, but anything beyond that, you're definitely gonna run into performance issues just because of the lack of CPU performance. Again, we're not really sure where Razer is on the price point for this, specifically given there are much better laptops out there that can handle the task you need for less, or even around the same price. However, if you're wanting to look baller and you aren't doing a whole lot beyond surface level productivity tasks and you want something that really excels in the form factor department, then the Razer Book 13 may just be the right laptop for you. There is something really magical about this piece of hardware, and I really did love using it. However, it only goes skin deep, and there isn't much below the surface to really make it even begin to stand out from the crowd on the performance side. But what do you think? All show and no go? Is that good enough for you? Is this now a laptop you're looking at or looking to avoid? We'd love to know all of that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button with that like button and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we either go live or post a new video right here on Robeytech. Also, make sure you check out our amazing Discord community over at discord.gg/Robeytech. We talk about PC builds, we talk about tech, we talk about all sorts of great things. It's absolutely awesome. You should check it out. If you're looking for great deals, head over to robeytechdeals.com, where we try and find the cheapest tech. Tom the Bot's always scouring the internet, trying to make your build as cheap as absolutely possible. You can also check out our amazing merch store over at robeytechstore.com, where you can get these awesome jackets and all sorts of really great tech, including these brand new mats that are coming right around the corner. Finally, guys, if you want to just hang out with me, check me out on other socials at Robeytech. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and all of that stuff. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.